Today we're going to make a ceramic phone or tablet stand that will also act as a passive speaker, slightly amplifying the sound. The first step is I'm going to set aside a chunk of clay to use for decorating my phone or tablet stand later. And I'm going to roll the larger portion into a ball. I press my thumb in and pinch the sides. I'm making basically a big pinch pot. I want the walls of that pinch pot to be about as thick as my finger, and I usually try to make it sort of a cone form so that it's wider at the opening where the sound is going to come out. Now I take those chunks of clay and usually I roll it into a ball, press it flat, and start cutting out shapes to make different features to add to it. I always like to make sort of imaginary monsters and other creatures like that. And I like to make things sort of asymmetrical because I think it adds a little bit of more of a fun, whimsical feel to it. I like to make things that are more sort of silly than scary. So I'm going to attach this sort of asymmetrical eye or set of eyes. And to attach pieces, I always remember slip, scratch, smooth. I wet the pieces. I use slip, which is like a very wet clay, or just water will also work. And I smooth over the seams where the pieces are attached. It's really, really important. Make sure your pieces will not fall off. Slip, scratch, smooth. Wet them, scratch them, smooth over the cracks. I'm going to attach some teeth sort of on the opposite side of where the eyes are, so that it balances out the space on my form. And again, I want this to have a more goofy sort of feel, so I'm going to make rounded instead of pointed teeth as I attach them. But I want to make sure those teeth don't fall out, so slip, scratch, smooth. I say that all the time, but I always end up with students who make beautiful looking sculptures that just fall apart as the clay dries out. When the clay is wet, a lot of times things will seem like they're sticking together even if they're not properly attached, but as the clay dries out, pieces can just start to fall off. You don't want that to happen. So make sure slip, scratch, smooth. Wet the pieces, scratch them, and smooth over the cracks, smooth over the seams where the two pieces are attached. I'm adding sort of a tail in the back, and that's going to help to prop up my phone or tablet. And I'm going to cut a notch out of the back of this where the phone can go in or the tablet can go in. This initial cut seems a little bit small to me, so I'm going to sort of press in the sides. What I like to do is press down the sides so that even a wider thing like a tablet can go across there. And then again, smooth over the cracks. I find it's really important to smooth over the cracks, not just to make the sculpture look better, but to make it stronger. Smoothing over the cracks, make sure that all of the clay is really well unified. I'm going to add some arms, and again, using a wavy line is going to make it a little bit less scary than a jagged arm would be. I want this to be sort of fun. And I'm going to, again, stick with that sort of asymmetry in my design. So I'm going to have sort of one arm up, one arm down. I like to have a little bit of an active pose, so I like to show a little bit of movement in the figure and have things like my figure is doing something. It just tends to make for a more interesting sculpture. After that, I'm going to pay attention to the texture. I like to add patterns, be it stripes or polka dots or other things like that. Just adding textured designs pressed into the clay. Adding different textures creates contrast to make the different features stand out, but it also helps me to make sure I'm paying attention to every inch of the sculpture, and getting purposeful textures helps me to make sure everything's really well attached. Finally, you can put a balled up paper towel inside of your clay sculpture to make sure that the clay doesn't collapse as it's drying out. When the clay dries out and it is bone dry, you can simply take the paper towel out before it goes in the kiln. And that's about it.